What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I want to do a review of the Zastava M92 AK pistol or AK SBR. So this is a 7.62x39 AK, and it's made in Serbia. And I just recently picked this up at a gun show a few months ago locally here in central Pennsylvania. And so far, I've had great results with it. The accuracy is really good. I'm very surprised by the accuracy. I want to show you some of the customization I've done to this rifle and how you can make it a lot better. So the first big thing that I did was I SBR'd it. So I filed a Form 1 with the ATF to manufacture a short barrel rifle. And once it got approved, I had this folding stock attached, but this comes with a 10.5-inch barrel, and accuracy has been really good. I get about 1 to 2 inch groups at 100 yards with this aim point 2 MOA red dot, and at 200 yards I'm getting about 4 to 8 inch groups, which I think is acceptable for what this rifle was built for, which is close range combat, close range defense. You're really not going to be using an AK over 200 yards, even over 100 yards. So to me, I think this rifle has acceptable accuracy, and the accuracy is really good for an AK. Okay, I can easily get 1 inch to 2 inch groups at 100 yards all day long with all kinds of different ammo. I haven't had it jam on me, and I've fired hundreds and hundreds of rounds through it so far. I started to hand load for it. I have some nice hand loads developed, and you can push this rifle pretty hot with the hand loads. I can get 300 feet per second over factory ammo. So one thing with any kind of AK pistol or AK SBR, or really any SBR, is you have a shorter barrel, so you're going to lose velocity. With the 123 grain full metal jacket military loads, I get about 300 feet per second less velocity than with a standard barrel AK, which is like 20-inch barrel. But to me, that's really good considering I only have a 10.5-inch barrel. Okay, compared to a 16, 18, or 20-inch barrel AK, I think that's really good. So depending on the time of the year, that's going to fluctuate. In the summer months, it's a little bit less velocity loss because the higher temperature with the powders will burn better, so you'll get more velocity. But in the winter, you're going to have more velocity loss, especially if you're using temperature-sensitive powder. But on average, expect between 2,050 feet per second to 2,200 feet per second with factory ammo of different kinds, from full metal jacket military ammo to aftermarket hunting ammo from, federal, like the federal power shocks, for example. That's what you're going to get depending on the season. In the winter months, I get like 2,050 feet per second, and in the warmer months, around 2,200 feet per second, with most of the 123 grain full metal jackets and soft point hunting loads from federal and other American companies. Okay, so to me, that's acceptable for what this is. But with my hand loads, I was able to develop a nice full metal jacket load for SHTF and for target shooting and just general purpose. I can push that 123 grain to 2,400 feet per second easily without any major pressure signs. So that's 300 or 200 feet per second over what I would get with factory ammo. So I highly recommend you hand load for your AK pistol or AK SBR and your Zastava M92 if you're going to get one, because with that shorter barrel, your velocities are going to really drop off. But even with the factory ammo, I'm getting really good groups at 200 yards and 100 yards, as I mentioned, and I'm going to attach some footage in a little bit of my groups. I'll show you some real range footage as well, so you can see the recoil and the noise level. And right now I have this Silencer Co. Omega 300 attached. And if you're going to suppress your Zastava M92, you're going to have to change your piston, okay? Because AKs are not made to be suppressed, so you're going to have a lot of blowback from the gases from the suppressor, and that's going to slam the bolt back into the receiver really hard. I did shoot it for a while, like probably 100 rounds or so, without an adjustable piston, just the standard AK piston, and I didn't have any like damage or any issues, but there was a noticeable difference in recoil, a lot more recoil suppressed with the regular AK piston, the Zastava piston. I switched to a KNS precision piston, so that's what I would recommend for your Zastava M92. Regardless of whether you're going to suppress it or not, you should get that KNS precision adjustable piston, and I'll show you guys how it works. It basically allows you to bleed off some of the gas, and it's real easy to adjust. You just turn it, left or right. There's clicks, and however many clicks, will determine how much gas you're bleeding off. So there's a wide adjustment range, and depending on the ammo you shoot, and if you're going to be using your rifle suppressed, you have to get that. Otherwise, you're going to beat up your rifle over time. It's not like you're going to destroy the rifle in one trip to the range, but over time, shooting suppressed with the regular Zastava piston or AK piston, it's going to beat up the internals. It's going to beat up the receiver. So you need to get that KNS precision adjustable piston, and it's real simple to change out. You can do it yourself, or you can go to your local gunsmith. It just involves punching out a pin. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, but highly recommend that adjustable piston. Now, this rifle or pistol, when I bought it, had a wood grip here, and it's really beautiful, but it's not practical for what I want to use this rifle for, which is home defense, SHTF, truck gun, woods gun, hiking gun. This is great for bear country, believe it or not, because it's compact, it's reliable. I haven't had this rifle jam on me at all since I purchased it. Hundreds of rounds later, absolutely zero jams, no matter what ammunition I was using. The only issue I had was with the subsonic Hornady loads, and those were not powerful enough to cycle with the KNS bolt. And the issue there was that with the KNS precision adjustable piston, there wasn't enough adjustment to close off enough of the gas to push the bolt back all the way with the Hornady subsonic ammo. But I think if I make some hand loads, I'll be able to get it to where I'm still subsonic, but I'll be able to cycle the rifle effectively. But that was just with the subsonic Hornady ammo, okay, the Hornady Sub X, okay, but everything else, no issues, no jams. Highly recommend this rifle if you're a prepper, if you're an outdoorsman. Like I said, great truck gun, great woods gun. You can go hiking with this if you're in bear country. You know, you got 30 rounds of full metal jackets in there. I mean, that'll stop a black bear no problem. Even a brown bear, I would not feel undergunned if I had this rifle here with my hot FMJ hand loads. You know, 30 round magazine. It's not ideal, but that's a lot of firepower and minimal recoil. Small package. I mean, this is really a small package. Very easy to carry, easy to stow in a vehicle of some kind, on a four-wheeler. Obviously, check the legality in your area of doing that. Depending on where you live, it may not be legal to have this at all. Okay, some states you can't even buy an AK pistol, or let alone have an SBR. But absolutely love it. And I'll show you guys up close the KNS Precision adjustable piston in a minute here. I want to show you also the handguard I got. This is from Midwest Industries, and this is their Ultimac handguard. And this is what you're going to want to get if you want to mount an optic to your Zastava M92, okay? Because other handguards, the way that they mount to the barrel, they're not stable enough to where you're going to have a repeatable zero. So the recoil is going to cause your handguard to shift around a little bit, and it'll mess up your zero. But so far I haven't had any issues with zero with this Midwest Industries handguard, okay? And the way that the handguard is mounted, especially the top part of it here where the Picatinny rail is, there's like these clamps, like U-clamps, that clamp the top part against the barrel so it holds everything tight so it doesn't shift. And then you got to use some thread locker. Okay, I use the non-magnetic thread locker. So this is special thread locker for non-magnetic screws and material, because remember, thread lockers need to have some kind of ferrous material for them to work. So if you're using thread lockers on aluminum, it's not going to work. So you need to get a non-magnetic thread locker. Okay, but very good results with this Midwest Industries handguard here. And the Aimpoint H2 that I have on here is awesome. It's just a very simple 2 MOA red dot. It's got very long battery life, and it's very compact. And that 2 MOA dot allows me to shoot all the way out to 200 yards. I think I could easily hit some groups at 300 yards. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to try that soon. So let me give you guys a closer look at some of the things I've done to this rifle and show you up close more some of the parts that are included in this rifle. So this is the wood handguard that came with the rifle, or the pistol, because it was a pistol when I purchased it. And then I turned it into a rifle. And here's the folding stock. This was made by CNC Warrior. Absolutely love this folding stock. Magpul grip. This is awesome. Much better than the regular AK grip. It's a lot thicker, so you get a better purchase on it. And this is a stamped receiver, so it's not milled, it's stamped. Okay, it's just metal stamped together with these rivets. And there you can see Zastava from Serbia. So this is a Serbian-made rifle. And there's just endless reviews on the internet of people having good results with these Zastava M92s, and Zastava AKs in general are considered to be one of the higher quality AKs. Here's the Aimpoint H2. That's what I recommend for this Zastava. It's exactly what you want for an AK pistol or SBR. You don't want anything that's going to take up a lot of space, because remember, the whole reason you're buying this is you want something compact, okay? So you don't want to stick a big scope on there or something, or big red dot. You also want something rugged, because this is a rifle that's meant to be carried a lot, put in vehicles. So you don't want like a reflex sight, because the reflex sight will take a beating and eventually maybe the glass would break on it. But with the tube red dot, especially this little micro aim point, it's super rugged, and I don't have any issues with it. And there's my Silencer Co. Omega 300. And I did have to get an adapter because AKs have their own threading. So it's not like a traditional American rifle where they thread the barrel or the muzzle. There's actually like this part that comes out that surrounds the barrel, and that's threaded. So the barrel itself is not actually threaded. There's like a shroud around it, and then that's what's threaded. Okay, so I got an adapter here, and there's numerous different companies that sell adapters for AK. So you're going to need an adapter if you're going to mount any kind of aftermarket accessories to your muzzle, whether it's a flash hider, muzzle brake, suppressor, or combination of those. Here I just have my Omega 300, and then if I take the Omega 300 off, I have the flash hider from Silencer Co. underneath. Okay, so I can switch between flash hider and suppressor. And then this is the Balder from Olight. Gives me a light and a laser, or combination of both. And then I have this Surefire red filter, and I love red filters on all my defensive lights because red is easier on your eyes. You don't lose your night vision, versus if you have a flashlight or weapon light with white light and you're going through and you're clearing an area, what's going to happen is as soon as you shut your light off, you're going to be blind, okay? Because your eyes are going to immediately lose the adjustment to the dark. Red doesn't do that, okay? And then here we have the factory front sight, really rugged. I'll show you guys that up close. Really rugged sights on this Zastava, very bomb-proof and built for war, basically. Here's the rear sight. This is the wing here covering the actual rear sight. But it's just a piece of history here, you know. Even the mag release here is just super high quality. The spring feels real tight. Everything feels heavy duty on this. It doesn't feel cheap. As you can see, it has a real loud click when you put that magazine in there. And I'll show you the other side of the rifle. So here's that folding stock from CNC Warrior. You can see M92 PV 7.62 by 39. You know, very simple safety. You just have fire and safe. And what's nice about the Zastava M92s is it actually has a bolt catch. So if you want to hold the bolt open to show people that your chamber is clear, there's nothing in the chamber, or just for your own reference, you just have to be careful with the bolt catch because it's very easy to accidentally push this down and slam the bolt forward, and this handle here will hit whatever and could either damage something or hurt you. It's got a lot of spring tension behind it, so just be mindful of that. But AKs are super reliable. Like I said, no jams so far. They've been proven over history to be very reliable the way that they're built. The piston is actually built into the bolt itself, which is different from piston-driven ARs here in the States. And that's what makes it even more reliable than an AR piston drive, because the piston itself is literally built into the bolt. Okay, so there's really very little that can go wrong. And here you can see Century Arms International, Georgia, Vermont. So here you can see Ultimac from Midwest Industries. This is what you're going to want to get. Highly recommend this if you're going to get one of these Zastava M92s. And so far as magazines go, I have some Magpul mags just for the range, but for actual real world use, I have steel mags that I got from a South Korean company. And here's the front sight, and you do need a special tool to adjust AK sights, so you can buy them for like $5 on Amazon. But in order to drift the front sight, you're going to need a special tool to do that, okay? Otherwise, with conventional hand tools, it's very difficult. There's the front sight. It's not really anything special, okay? It's just a post, okay? And I actually had to drift it all the way over to the left in order to have a 0. That's pretty crazy. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just manufacturing quality, the bore axis or whatever, but I had to drift it all the way over. And here's the rear sight. So you have two adjustments. You have a 400 meter and a 200 meter adjustment on the rear sight. Just basically flips up or down, but I just have it set for 400, and that's what I zeroed at. My zero is at 200 yards actually. So, and that's with a 6 o'clock hold. I like to zero all my iron sights with a 6 o'clock hold, because with any front sight, you're going to take up space on the target. The front sight is going to block your target. So if you don't have a 6 o'clock hold, if you're shooting at longer distances like 100 yards, 200 yards, you're going to notice that your front sight is going to cover your entire target. So to get around that, you basically zero your iron sights so that your point of impact is just above the top of your front sight. So you're basically going to hold your front sight just under where you want the bullets to go. That's called a 6 o'clock hold, because if you look at a clock, imagine the center of the clock is your target, and 6 o'clock is right underneath the center of the clock. So that's why it's called a 6 o'clock hold. And I have that set up on all of my rifles, with the exception of my defensive pistols. Those I don't have a 6 o'clock hold for, because in a close range defense situation, you don't want to have to think, oh, do I have to hold under, or do I hold right where I want it to go? So for defensive pistols, I don't have it set up that way. But for rifles, I like to have a 6 o'clock hold set up. And I'll show you guys, even with these iron sights, I can get really, really good groups at 200 yards. And with the dot sight, same thing with the aim point. So, and then I just have this aim point mount here. Purchased it with this sight. And then here's the Picatinny rail. So highly recommend this Zastava M92. I'm going to attach some range footage so you guys can see how it is to shoot. And I'll also show you guys my groups from the range. And then I'm going to quickly show you the KNS Precision adjustable piston, which I think is a must for these rifles. But overall, highly recommend the Zastava M92. Very accurate AK pistol or AK SBR, and it's very compact. It is a little bit on the hefty side because it's all metal. There's no aluminum on an AK unless you have like a aluminum folding stock here, but it is a little bit on the hefty side. It's not light, but you get really good reliability. I mean, it's basically as reliable as any manually operated firearm, a bolt action, a pump action. So for SHTF, for bugging out, for home defense, this is an excellent option. Okay, most situations, you're not going to really need to shoot beyond even 50 yards, but with this rifle, you can easily go out to 200 yards and have decent groups with a dot sight, or even with the iron sights. You're going to be looking at, you know, about you're going to be looking at accuracy of about a pie plate at 200 yards, which is more than enough. So here's the KNS adjustable piston right here, and it just attaches with a pin. Okay, so that's what makes the AK so reliable, is you have your piston directly attached to your bolt. Okay, so actually your bolt is in here, and this is the bolt carrier. So my apologies, it's not your actual bolt, it's your bolt carrier. Okay, but it's basically one piece. So your piston goes right into your bolt carrier, and so this is just one piece, and when the gas hits this part right here, it pushes everything back. Okay, and that's what makes it so reliable. As you can see, it's just filthy covered with carbon. Okay, normally this would be a shiny silver color like this part here, but it's covered in carbon, and it's actually not that dirty considering how many rounds I've put through this rifle. But The way the KNS adjustable piston works is it's attached here by a pin. You have to just remove your fixed piston, which is easy to do. You just drive that pin out. Okay, you just need a good hammer and a punch and a vise, and you just drive that out. And so the way it works is you can see this little hole here. So that's where the gas bleeds out. Okay, so I have it set all the way back to let out as much gas as possible, because with those hot hand loads, I want to let out as much gas as possible. So you can see how large that hole is. So the gas goes through there, and actually the gas enters through here, this hole. Normally on an AK piston, this part is just flat. There's no hole there. Okay, so it just pushes everything back. But the gas goes through the hole, and then it bleeds out through this hole here. Okay, so some of the gas escapes through that little hole, and then it hits this part, and that drives your bolt carrier back. Okay, but if you're using weaker ammo or subsonic ammo, what you do is you turn this forward like that, and you can see as I'm clicking, that hole is getting smaller. Okay, so once we go all the way to the front, it's completely closed. Okay, and there's a little bit of carbon fouling here, so I may have some difficulty now in closing it all the way because the carbon got on the threads here, but there we go. It's mostly closed now. Okay, so as you can see, it's closed now. So this would be for subsonic operation or really weak ammo, but for everything else, you're going to open that up. I have it basically wide open all the way, and this makes a huge difference in shootability. Okay, you get a lot less recoil with this when you have it open all the way versus the factory piston. There's no adjustment, so you're getting the full force of that gas. Okay, and it makes a big difference in the recoil. Makes it feel a lot more like a 308 Winchester in terms of recoil versus a 7.62 by 39. So once again, you can see as I twist it, that hole gets larger and larger. Okay, and that lets the gas bleed off, and that reduces the recoil and reduces the wear and tear on your internal components. But highly recommend the KNS Precision adjustable piston. And I got to clean this bolt carrier here, but one of the big advantages to any AK is that you can easily disassemble it in the field and clean it. It's very similar to a Glock. It's made with loose tolerances. The chamber is cut larger, which means you're going to get less accuracy, but you're going to have more reliability, because when you have a larger chamber, you can chamber different varieties of ammunition without having to worry about extraction issues. And if the ammo's dirty or something, if you have a real tight chamber, you could have extraction or chambering issues even. Okay, so remember, an AK is built with loose tolerances, and that makes it more reliable but less accurate. Okay, so it depends on what you want. Now, the nice thing about AKs is you can easily break them down in the field, like I mentioned, just like a Glock, easy to take down in the field. However, if you're going to do any kind of customization, like changing out the fore end or the handguard, mounting stuff to it, it's not as user-friendly as an AR. Okay, ARs, you have the rail system, whether it's M-LOK or Picatinny rail, whatever. It's a lot easier to work with an AR. It's very customizable compared to an AK. AK, you need special tools, special mounts. Everything is riveted. There's pins holding things in place. The barrel is pressed. Okay, so it's a lot different than an AR platform, but they are very rugged. Okay, everything is really rugged. Look at this front sight. Look how thick the metal is on the wings of that front sight. You know, you can probably drive over that front sight with a car or pickup truck, and you're not going to bend this. Okay, it's really thick, heavy duty stuff. Hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you found it useful. And if you want to see more content with this rifle, check out my AK playlist. I'll leave a link in the top right corner. And if you want to see more videos with the 7.62 by 39, I've done a lot of ballistics tests with that. I'll leave a link in the top right corner to my 7.62x39 playlist. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And one final thing I wanted to mention is the trigger. A lot of people change out their triggers for the ALG trigger, and I don't recommend you do that. It's better to keep the factory AK trigger. It's more reliable than the aftermarket triggers. And the standard AK trigger, it's actually not bad. At least the Zastava one is not bad. There's a lot of take-up, so you just have to get used to that. So what I mean by take-up is you have this whole part of the pull where nothing is happening. Okay, you see that? So there's a lot of take up, and so when you're shooting, if you're shooting for precision, what you're going to do is you're going to carefully take up that part of the pull right here until you feel it hit a wall. Okay, and now you're going to apply pressure. Okay, so that's the proper way to use an AK trigger if you're shooting for precision. A lot of people complain about the trigger and say that it sucks, but that's just the way it was designed. It has a lot of take up, okay? So you have to take up that slack and then squeeze the trigger, okay, and break the trigger.